You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Barbell Logic podcast. I'm here with Nikki Sims. I'm Matt Reynolds, and welcome back to the podcast, whether you're listening to us on audio or on the Barbell Logic podcast YouTube channel. We're excited today. We're going to talk a little bit. We've been talking about why simple programming is the most effective. We sort of introduced the idea of linear progression for new lifters. And we're going to talk a little bit today about what happens when you go off script, like whether it's on purpose or not on purpose. And we want to get to that. But before we do, you and the experienced team, really the entire team, have been working for a long time on something that we're super excited about that we call BL1K. And I want you to tell the listeners what that is.
BL1K was born from an idea after I read a book called The Power of Moments. And I read this book and just was so excited to tell the team about it. And Nikki Berman has also read this book, and it really gives merit to the importance of recognizing big milestones in people's lives and making a big deal out of something to keep life exciting and to reward hard work and to kind of pay attention to the feelings associated with big moments. And as we started developing our own software for Barbell Logic, we recognized we were able to identify big moments because we can track the number of workouts that people complete. And I know everybody's heard us talk about compliance a lot, but compliance is one investment that everybody can make and be rewarded for. Like, it's not like awarding people for hitting 315 on their squat. Some people might never hit 315. Yeah. It's not a weight milestone that you're limited by, certain factors. It's a reward and an acknowledgement and recognition of showing up consistently for a really long time. So our software, for those of you who are clients, when you hit a workout is complete, it shows you the number of workouts that have been completed. And we have some people who have been with us for such a long time that they've done 1,000 workouts with us.
It's amazing.
Like,
think about that.
The math.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's years.
It's years. I mean, honestly, most people probably train between 1 and maybe 200, more like 150 times a year, right? So 3 times a week, that's like 100 workouts, 125 workouts. Maybe 150 workouts a year. So 1,000 workouts. That's like 5, 6, 7 years of training.
Yeah.
With Barbell Logic. This is a huge deal.
It's a huge deal. Like, that is such a marker of investment in training and consistency. And even just think about how many squat reps that is. If you're doing like 10 to 15, sometimes 30 to 45 reps of work set squats a week. It's incredible. Yeah. And it shows
for both the lifter and the coach, right?
And the coach.
So that the coach has actually broken down all those videos and broken down all those reps, which is actually really cool too. So one of the things I know that was important for you and important for us as a team is not just to recognize the client, but to recognize the coach. It's a big deal for a coach to be able to build a relationship with a client and coach them. Think about, I would wager to say that the vast majority of people on this list, certainly over half of the people on this list, we're going to actually read some of these names, have probably never met their coach in person.
Man, that's a trip.
Isn't that wild to think about? Yeah. And yet they've been coached for over 1,000 workouts. They've probably, they all have great relationships with their coaches. They've got a great relationship with Barbell Logic, and they're invested in their success. And so for us, it's really important that we recognize that because it is a huge deal.
Yeah. And when it happens, now the admin team, Nikki Berman, is able to see when a client completes 1,000 workouts. The coach also sees, and we celebrate it with the client. And we also have started creating these custom signs, these really cool laser cut metal signs for these clients that have their name on them. They have a cool Barbell Logic icon and BL1K. And it's so special. Only they can have it.
Yeah, you
and we send it to them with a special shirt that's 1,000 workouts completed. Yeah. And the coach gets a special thank you as well. And we get to tell their names on the podcast. So we want to go through our list of coaches and clients who have hit 1,000 workouts. And it's Not a short list.
Well, it's not 200, so you don't have to waste it. So, but
Not
no,
20 people, but
yeah,
I
we have
wanted to give their
little over
names and their
20.
coaches.
And we're
Yeah.
going to do this as time goes on, of course, because this is a new program for us. Then we'll read more names today than we will in the future. But in the future, when somebody hits 1,000 workouts with Barbell Logic, we're gonna give them a shout out on the podcast, which is pretty cool. So we've got a lot of shout outs today.
Yeah. So Matt and I are going to go back and forth. The first one is Suzanne Edwards, who is coached by Becca Krieg, and she actually has a few on this list, which is pretty amazing. Not a surprise. And who's next?
Yeah, you'll see this. This is another thing. Obviously, it's not just the 5, 6, 7 years for the client, but it often requires a coach to have been with us for that long, right? Occasionally you get somebody who, a coach has come and gone or something, and they've had a couple coaches over the course of their life at Barbell Logic, but the coaches most of these are some of our OGs that have been here, right? So Brett Wick is number 2, and he's coached by Cody Miller. It's funny, I read these names and I'm like, I can remember reading these, like seeing these people sign up often on the day we launched. A lot of these people signed up on launch day. So Brett, congrats.
Yeah. Another congrats for one of Becca's clients, Shannon Miller. Ooh, the next one is one of your clients, Matt.
One of my favorites, Father John Floater. Man, one of my, guy's been on the podcast before, Catholic priest, doesn't get to have fun with all the other vices that the rest of us get to have fun with. And so his vice is weightlifting. And so, no,
and he's got a great gym set up.
He's got a great gym set up. He is not just a priest, but he also trains up and coming priests and talks about and shares with these young men who are often in their young 20s, early 20s, the value of strength training and voluntary hardship. So they've really grasped onto that. We've been able to, Hambrick and I and Carl, we've gone out there several times and got to work with those guys, and they're just a blast. So yeah, Father Floater, congrats on your 1,000th workout.
Yeah. And Bobby Pierce, I recognize that name. He's next. He's coached by Andrew Jackson. He gets nutrition coaching from him as well. And Bobby's been to many of our lifting camps.
Yeah.
He got to compete at King of the Hill when we had our block party last year. It's funny, these names, like Matt and I, since we've been doing this from the very beginning, we saw every name come in when they signed up. I did payroll looking at every client name for years and
That's
years.
Right. That's right.
I remember all these names. That's great.
Bobby lives in Joplin, Missouri, which is just about an hour or 45 minutes west of here. There was a huge tornado there about 10 years ago. Some of you may remember it from being on the national news. And so I remember meeting Bobby for the first time. He came to like a Strenuous Life workout with Brett McKay and Art Manliness in Tulsa.
Cool.
I remember meeting him for the first time there, and then he signed up after that, and he's been with us all these years. So
That's rad.
It's great to have you, Bobby. The next is Fabian Becker, who is coached by Nikki Berman. And Fabian he's in Denmark, or he's over in he's in a Scandinavian country or something, I think.
I hope none of these people want us to not tell us. We don't know their home addresses.
True. Yeah, that's probably true. I know Bobby well enough that I know it'd be okay to say, yeah, we won't hone in too tight, but he's one of our European guys, and that's been really cool too. Again, that he's coached by Coach Berman in Arizona, and that 1,000 workouts. This is one that I would guess, and I could be wrong, I would guess they've never met, and because they live 10,000 miles apart, but she's been able to coach him for 1,000 workouts. That's really incredible.
Yeah. And here's another special one, Brett McKay, who you have coached, Matt, for
a very long time. As a matter of fact, he may be the all-time leader in actual workout numbers, because I coached him for a couple years before we even launched the business. And so, yeah, and now he's such a close personal friend. We talk still every single week. And again, that's one of those things where it was just, here's the guy from Art of Manliness. In the beginning, I kind of had stars in my eyes. I was like, man, this guy's kind of a big celebrity, and it's fun to... And now he's just Brett. He's just my buddy. And Gus, his son, they come out now. And when Brett comes out to the house and trains, he brings his kiddo, Gus, and Gus lifts. And then we eat Texas-sized waffles. As a matter of fact, for Christmas, I bought Gus Texas waffle maker. Did I tell you this?
No.
And so I got Brett's kid. This is what happens when you coach somebody for over 1,000 workouts. You buy their kids Christmas presents, right? So... So they live in Oklahoma, and which I think just about everybody knows that about Brett. But Gus loves, the Texas-shaped waffles.
I
thought when you go to
Texas waffles might be just super thick.
No, not like Texas toast. There's actually, you go to if you go to hotels in Texas, the waffle makers will have the waffles will be shaped like the state of Texas. And so I found one like that. And then also
I'm
bought
glad
like
Oklahoma doesn't do that.
but I know that would be very odd, right? And it's one little stick. And then I bought a case of my favorite syrup and sent it to him as well for
Oh,
Christmas.
that's so sweet.
Yeah. So it's been great. Next is Charles Olson, who is coached by Burgos, who's
and gets nutrition coaching from Brittany.
And gets nutrition coaching from Brittany. That's right. So just a great guy. And probably it would be tough to have a more fun duo of coaches than Michael Burgos and Brittany Snyder. So
they're so great.
What a great combo of strength and nutrition coaches there.
Yeah. Another one who's getting nutrition coaching from Brittany and strength coaching from our coach, Brooke Habenstricker, is Carrie Wilson. I think I remember seeing a lot of her lifts. She's just gotten consistently stronger, super dedicated.
Yep.
Yeah.
Next is Matthew Foxworth, and he is also coached by Andrew Jackson for both strength and nutrition. He's just been part of the family for all of these years, and same thing. He pops up all the time and is a super, super great guy.
And man, I'm going to mess up this next name. He's coached by Scott Hambrick.
Steiner.
Steiner.
Yeah,
okay. There's just a lot of letters in there.
Yeah, in the early days. Eric Steiner, who's coached by Hambrick now. I actually started coaching him years ago. And again, I think I coached Eric for a little while before I actually launched the company for real, back even before there was like a Reynolds Strong and I was doing online coaching. Steiner is literally like an incredible saxophone player, like a world-class saxophone player.
Wow.
And, he was that, sorry, Eric, I'm just going to throw this. He was that typical kind of like nerdy music guy like 7-8 years ago. And now he's a jacked music guy. He's a jacked. Yeah, he's a jacked.
Still be nerdy and jacked.
Yeah, right. Yeah, now he's a nerdy jacked music guy. No, he's just a super great guy.
Okay, so we have two that are coached by Cody Miller, some for nutrition, Tim Hunn and Kyle Buntain. Cody's been in this game for a long time. I know Cody is the way he coaches. He has specific check-ins that gauge a lot of subjective relationship with training. So I think that's what works really well for the longevity of his client relationship.
Yep.
And especially when you coach nutrition too, you see so much of the outside world than just strength coaching.
That's
you
right.
really get to know them. You get to know their lives. So I think that's a cool thing that Cody does.
So, and here's a cool thing about Kyle Buntain that I don't know if you know this, but he was an original member of Strong Gym in Springfield, Missouri. And he moved out of Springfield, so he doesn't live here anymore. He moved down to Arkansas. And so he wanted to get coaching. And I said, hey, you're in luck. I'm actually starting an online coaching business. And he signed up and started getting coaching from Cody Miller. So yeah, it was wild. Kyle probably had 300 or 400 workouts at Strong Gym before he started at Block. Yeah, isn't that wild? So then we got the Fang. Adam Fangman, who is one of our coaches, is actually the first coach on this list who is also a client, which I love this, right? Because this is my favorite type to watch the life cycle of some of these lifters who start as lifters. They super deep dive into the coaching world. They coach their friends and family and parents and whatever. And then they earn their PBC. They go to the seminars and they become a coach for us. And now he's an incredible coach for us as well. But he's also completed over 1,000 workouts, and he's coached by Andrew Jackson. They've got the Pacific Northwest tied down. He is one of the funniest human beings you'd ever meet. He does like improv comedy. He's led that stuff for us before at the block party. He is just a blast to be around. And then I have to step out and go to sleep at like 9:30 in the evening after hanging out with him for too long.
And he's like just getting out of bed.
He's like, I'm good. I got another 9 hours of this. Let's roll.
Nice. And next up, we have someone who's coached by Nikki Berman, Strength and Nutrition. Her name is Angelique Schmitz.
Well, what's crazy about, again, you see this. I know I've heard Nikki Berman talk about Angelique before. Again, it's a testament when you see these coaches like Nikki Berman that have multiple clients on this to go like, they really know how to invest in their clients. And this is what Nikki Berman does for our entire team. And so why she's such an incredible coach is because of how much she cares about every single, not just even her specific clients,
totally,
but every single client at Barbell Logic. Is really cool.
Yeah.
Barbara Taylor, who is an incredible lifter, is a well-decorated power lifter. Becca Krieg coaches her. She has coached her for years, and she's just an amazing lifter. She's a master's lifter. I don't know how old she is. I'm not going to say her age, but she's not 35, and she's really, really strong.
And on that note, I remember when Barbara Taylor first started working with us, she was working with me and it wasn't the perfect fit. And one thing that I like about this team is that if it's not the perfect fit with one coach, we can make it the right fit with another coach. And some of these coaches, like you mentioned earlier, haven't been the sole coach of these clients. They've worked with other coaches before, but it's like kind of the full team that's gotten to them to this point. And I think I mean, Becca really is Barbara's coach. I want to say that. But I think it just speaks to like the cool level of what we're able to do as a team here.
Yeah, we don't have to do that very often, but for us, it's really important as a business to be able to make sure that our clients are matched up with the right coach. And sometimes it has nothing to do with like the, negatives of either. It's just sometimes it's like it's just not quite the right fit. And then when we find the right fit, it's perfect and it shows. And then they stay for over 1,000 workouts and they make incredible progress and PR across the board. And so it's really cool. Next one on the list is probably the tallest lifter, potentially the tallest client we have. That's Kirk Serber, who's also coached by Hamrick. Serber, I also met, I think for the first time on the same day I met Bobby Pierce at the same workout with Brett McKay and Artem Anlinis in Tulsa. He's an Oklahoma guy. And he came worked out and was like, oh my goodness, that guy, when he presses, that bar moves like 5 feet when he presses. And when he squats, he's one of the few people on earth that Nikki Sims can't complain to about her range of motion on a squat. Because it was a joke. I'm joking. So it's just,
I do.
He actually has longer legs than you do. So,
super. Yeah. Watching people like him and Pat Garrity squat, it's just like, wow.
Yeah. You're like, well, I thought I had long legs.
Moving.
Yeah. What is Kirk's 6'7", 6'8", 6'7", somewhere there. I mean, he's tall.
Yeah. So. Yeah. It's been really cool to watch his strength develop too. He's gotten so strong and just changed a lot since he first started training.
That's right.
Badass. Yeah. That's right. Someone who's coached by Wolf. His name is James
Bevilacqua.
I'm so glad you know how to say his name.
So again, long time from Wolf. I think, and I may get this wrong, but I think this might have been a guy that Wolf coached back when he was in New York. And when Wolf moved, he was able to stay with Wolf. And again, that's the other nice thing, right? That I think one of the greatest value propositions for both our coaches and our clients is that you can connect with these people. The coaches get connected with the clients get connected with professional coaches. No matter where they are in the world, they can get connected with the best coach on the planet for them. And same thing with the coaches. They get to be connected with these incredible clients. And so when Wolf moved across the country to the state of freedom, to Texas, then he was able for the waffles to continue to coach James. I saw this one on the list. The next one is Brittany Snyder, and I have coached her for strength. Jillian's been her nutrition coach. Brittany is a coach of ours. She is another one that has gone through the entire process. I can still remember going to a seminar many years ago in Denver, I think, in Colorado, and meeting her in person. And she signed up right afterwards for online coaching. And it was just as we were launching and has just been 100% in. It's been really cool watching her develop as a coach. Just such a great handle on Barbell Logic culture. She is a culture leader of our team, much like you and Nikki Berman. She's just understands what we're about and understands that it's not just about strength coaching or just nutrition coaching, but she really gets the overall culture of who we are. That's exactly right. And she's an incredible coach as well.
Man, the next two on the list are also coaches. We have Nikki Berman, who you've gotten to work with. Now she's with Becca Krieg and also gets nutrition coaching. She's gotten it from Jillian, now with Becca. Berman, another really interesting and fun lifter to watch because Nikki Berman, she gets shit done.
That's right. That's right.
She will always figure out how to get it done. And her life has changed a bit in the last couple of years. She's had a couple beautiful children, and she runs our client experience team. And she's so invested again in the client and client experience and just like showing up for people. But it's cool to see how she also shows up for herself in her training. And she adapts. She has to adapt all the time, and she figures out how to make it work. And I think her and Beck have done a really, really great job together.
Yeah, I agree. And I was talking to Rachel about Nikki the other day, that like she does such an incredible job for us at the business. But with her life changes as being a young mom, I don't think she would be able to do that if we had a traditional business, if she had to get up and go to the office every day at 8 a.m. in the morning. And so I'm like, man, how awesome is it that she gets to, like, she's an incredible mom, incredible wife, never misses her workouts, and then also just absolutely crushes it for Barbell Logic. I love it. So she's such an incredible asset for us, both for the company and also as a lifter and a coach. And so she's great. And then the last one on the list is Patrick Yeomans, Patrick was my very first intern before I fully launched the business. He is here, lives in a little suburb of Springfield, just outside of the town that I live in. He's coached by Cody Miller as well. I've coached Pat for years in the past. He also has run the gamut and started as a lifter and went through the academy, became a coach. Like, the guy's just worked his butt off to become a great coach. He's an incredible coach.
So strong.
Dad,
very
family
strong.
man. Yeah, and super strong. And
Yeah.
also one of those guys that, like, he looks great, looks the part, looks athletic. He's a high school basketball referee, so he's running up and down the court all the time. You know, a lot of times when you say, like, you're super strong, if somebody calls me super strong, it's also another way of being like, he's a little bit overweight.
No.
That's not really, like, Yeomans is in really great shape and super strong. And so there you go. So there's 22 people so far that have completed
21.
over 1,000 workouts at Barbell Logic.
And more happening every month. So it's really exciting to watch. And
It is really exciting.
that could be you.
That's right.
Yeah.
You only got to invest like 7 years to get there. No, it's great. Thank you all for sure.
Yeah,
from
thanks, everybody.
the bottom of our heart, thank you to both of the clients and to the coaches. It's a tremendous amount of work put in by both, and we don't take it lightly. I think that's what's really important. So we do try to do things for both the client and the coach that they can't buy. They can't go out and buy the plaque that they're going to hang on the wall. You have to earn that plaque, and so it's important. So
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. I want to say so, and not to turn things sad, because honestly, this is one of those things that for those of you who know me and know the way I believe, which I try not to shove down anybody's throat, I am mostly rejoicing here, but I lost my pops last week. Damn it. Here I go. And so I wanted to announce on the podcast because the podcast, our listeners have prayed for us and cried for us and rejoiced with us and sent me hundreds and hundreds of messages on social media, by text, over the last several years, and especially recently over the last couple of weeks. And but I really mean this. My dad's not suffering anymore. He suffered for 3 years with Lewy body dementia. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's about 7 years ago, which was probably misdiagnosed. It usually is. And then Lewy body dementia, I've said this before, but it's sort of like a terrible combination of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. So it attacks both your body and your mind. And so I've just had to watch my dad for years suffer, and he's not suffering anymore. And I got to say my goodbyes, and a lot of people don't get to do that. I had an incredible meeting with him in Thanksgiving this last year, where he was like oddly lucid and was able to really communicate to me and to my girls. And I remember walking out of that meeting going, "That'll be the last good one I get." But most people don't get that at all. And so anyway, it's not sad. I'm choked up because it's emotional. It's mostly tears of joy. Yeah, I'm still going through some grieving process, and there's some exhaustion there that's in ways that I never had to deal with this. I've never had anybody close to me pass. And so, but Dad's not suffering anymore, and I'm thankful for that. My mom's doing great. And I mostly just wanted to thank the podcast listeners for being so gracious and so wonderful. And I had so many messages. You get to the point where you can't even respond to them all. So if you sent me a message and you didn't hear back from me, like, please understand, I'm so grateful and so thankful that you did that. And so I'm thankful that my dad didn't have to suffer for another 2 or 3 years. That would have been worse. And so Dad's no longer with us, but no longer suffering, and I believe he's in a better place. And so really, it's for us, it's actually more of a joy than it is grief. And so thanks for standing alongside us all of these years while he was suffering. And anyway, thank you so much for sharing that with me and being a source of support to everybody.
Thanks for being open and sharing that with everybody, because
Of course.
everybody's going to go through that too. And it's comforting to hear someone else talk about it and to be open about it and to feel all the things that are around it. So
Yeah.
thanks to you.
Thank you. I don't know how to do it any other way. Right. So
Yeah.
it's hard to fake it and not, just I don't know how people do that. People act like everything's okay, or people can just like put it in the box and tuck it away. And for me, it's there's actually freedom in the transparency. I've said that before with other things in my life. And so I would rather be transparent to a fault than the other way around, than hidden to a fault. And so with all that said, so lots of celebrations. Even celebrations in death, because when somebody suffers, that can be a celebration that they don't have to suffer anymore. We want to talk a little bit today about what it feels like to go off track, to really like go off script, especially when you are still a novice lifter. So when you're a beginning lifter, anybody who is an intermediate or advanced lifter or has done this for 1,000 workouts, they've gone off script many times, right? But for a lot of our listeners, they are probably either approaching the day or are going through or have recently come through. Maybe it's the first time you've ever had to go off script, like something has been different and something changes. And so we want to address that today. So how do you want to start? Where do you want to go first?
I want to say like what on script is. So being on script is you have, as a novice, like a really nice looking future of things going up really linearly. And it's like almost a guarantee. When you first begin, it's a guarantee that weight on the bar is going to increase every time you train.
That's right.
The longer you train, it becomes less of a regimented guarantee. It's a little more fluid. You have to be a bit more dynamic with how you see things increase, and it takes a lot more manipulation. But when you're first getting started, it's this beautiful path that just looks up. And you get your program from your coach. It looks a lot like it did the session before. And so staying on script is doing that workout just as it's written. And then going off script would mean you're manipulating things like in your off workout times, like when you're doing multiple hobbies or when you came into training with another hobby, like you go really hard in the time that's outside the gym. And so the script as it was likely written is going in this really steep slope upward. And when you go off script by challenging your recovery outside the gym or changing the workout that your coach has written for you, which I will tell you now, coaches don't love that.
Because it was there and I just wanted a PR. I just decided to PR today. Just decided to hit a new 1 rep max.
So you've altered your future.
That's right.
And
That's right.
It's more noticeable when you're a novice because the path is much more clear when you're a novice. So when you go off script, you have changed things.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We talked about over the last couple of weeks that idea of simple, hard, effective training, that the most effective training is very, very simple, but still very hard. And so that when you hear that term linear progression, it's called linear progression because you're just adding the same amount of weight to the barbell every single workout. And so if you graph it, the slope of the line is linear, right? It goes up at, like a 45-degree angle. It's what it does. Mm-hmm. And that is the most efficient way to get strong. It's the most efficient way to make progress, right? It's also, not only is it the most efficient, it's also the most effective because it often utilizes that minimum effective dose. We don't have to do that with 20 exercises. We get to do it with like 3, 4, 5 at the most exercises. It's not very many. Mm-hmm. And so just like you said, when you go off of script, not only, and there are times when life hits you and you don't choose to go off script, right? You get hit, like your dad dies or somebody gets COVID or you get laid off from your job or, like whatever the thing is, and it pulls you off script. But what you have to understand what that does, the effect of going off script is that it changes the slope of the line. Mm-hmm. The slope of the line is improving in the most effective and efficient manner possible. And that is great so long as we're all robots and so long as life never throws us a curveball and so long as we never have any other like hobbies or pursuits, especially physical pursuits that we want to chase. And so, but that's not real life, right? And so one of the things I struggle with a lot of times in the fitness industry is that fitness professionals seem to speak in this almost like we live in this nirvana state where we're all going to do the things right. Like, we'll just do this thing right. Well, yeah, of course. If you do it right and if there's no stress and if nobody gets sick and if, there's not work stress and if you never get a stomach bug and you don't like even little things like that, you think about like how a stomach bug affects you, right? Where you just like, if you spend 2 days and it doesn't even have to be like bad, like you don't even have to feel like sick. There's lots of times you get a little stomach bug, you get sick to your stomach, 2, 3, 4 times in a 2-day period. That affects training. That's pulling you off script. It's going to change the slope of the line a little bit. And so, but then there's also times where you decide that you really want to do a Spartan race with your wife, or you really want to go do this, you want to go do something else that's like tremendously physical, or you want to go also start BJJ and do BJJ class 2 or 3 days a week as well on top of that. And so that is, on script is a perfect world where the only goal is to get stronger as fast as possible. But the most important thing to understand there that I think is also important for us as a company is that that's not the singular goal for us and for our clients unless that is the singular thing that improves their quality of life. The goal for us is to improve their quality of life. As a matter of fact, I wish you could do this, but you can't really put it on a slope on a line. But it would be great if you could actually graph quality of life, because what I'm really wanting to do is I'm wanting to improve quality of life in the most effective and efficient manner possible. Now, that's such a subjective thing, quality of life. And what improves your quality of life is not the same thing that improves my quality of life, and vice versa. Everyone is personalized. That's why templates don't work very well, because especially if what we're trying to do when we coach our clients is improve their quality of life and not just improve their strength, which we believe that for the vast, vast majority of people, potentially even 100% of people, that as they improve their strength, they will improve their quality of life. There are other things that often compete with strength that will also improve their quality of life. And we don't want to be, it's not my job to tell my clients, when my client's like, hey, I have this thing I really want to do with my wife. We really want to go on this, we're going to take 2 weeks and we're going to go hiking in the mountains. Or we really want to go do a 5K together, or we want to do this thing. Why would I tell that person, like, whoa, that's going to screw up the slope of the line of your squat?
I used to tell that to people as a coach.
Yeah.
When I first started coaching, it was someone wanted to run, it was a hard no.
That's right.
Someone wanted to do arms, it was a hard no. Someone wanted to do cardio,
Right.
It was a hard no. And it was like not even a discussion.
Yeah. So I'm going to pull a Dr. Phil and like, how'd that work for you?
Well, I think the client just doesn't get to say what's important to them. I don't, as the coach, listen to what's important to them. And then they end up trying to force strength into their life in a way that doesn't accommodate the rest of the things that are important to them. So it's not going to be, it might pay off, like it might just end up being okay for them.
Sure.
But it doesn't start things off on the right path of figuring out what's important to each person.
That's right.
So not great. Because also sometimes clients would just do it anyway.
Right.
So then
Some
the
people
coach
are
is just
that's right.
programming without all the information.
That's right.
Because you don't have an open communication pathway.
Yeah, there are clients who are just people pleasers and rule followers to the point that they'll just do whatever the coach says. Which as a coach,
That's
those
great.
clients are awesome. Because you're just like, they always do what I ask. But at the same light, again, my guess would be the 22 people's names we just read. You could go to every one of their coaches and you could say, tell me the top 3 things that you can improve in that client's life that will improve their quality of life. And they'll know it. How could you not after 1,000 workouts?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They know where the return on investment is.
Yeah.
And for some people, it really is like the primary focus is just going to be improving strength or the combination of consistency or compliance and strength, right? It's that developing that habit. But for others, it's not. For others, it's going to be strength and X, strength and this, strength and something else. And that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that at all. As a matter of fact, Father Floater just, he's stuck in a position right now where he's in Minnesota, right? So we're in mid-March right now. So it's just starting to like not be Siberia up there. Like it's ridiculous. I've been up there in January and February before, and he was having to walk over a mile to the gym every day, and he never does this. And I think it's okay that I'd share this, but he was like, I just need a mental and physical break for a week. I just need to because it was just, and there were other stresses going on in his life, and he just needed he was like, I just have and so that's okay. So it's not my job to like berate him,
right,
and say like, hey man, toughen up and walk the 1.5 miles to the gym when it's -5 outside. Like I wouldn't do that. Right. And so I think that's really important for us to listen to our client.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And okay, so I'm thinking of times when off-script occurrences occur. One of them would be when a client decides to go for a PR.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm sure I've done this before.
like a legit 1 rep max PR.
Yeah. And as you advance in your lifting and become intermediate and advanced, like sometimes like the moon and the stars and everything has to be aligned for you to hit a PR, and you start to develop a better understanding of when that is in place for you to go for it. But when you're new, you can hit a PR like really often.
Okay. Sometimes every workout, a lot of times. That's right.
And like they'll get to near a plate PR and they're just like, okay, well, I was supposed to do 3x5 at 300 today, but instead I'm going to go for a 1RM at 315. And
that's right.
what'll
Put
happen
those 3
is
plates on. That's right.
They'll hit 315 and they'll be like, I'm going to do more. I'm going to go for 335. And they might have what you have called a bone-on-bone grinder, or they're going to miss.
That's right.
And they've gone from walking on sunshine, hitting PRs, hitting their 315 to a miss, which is a huge blow mentally. They might not have ever dropped the squat on the pins before, so that's like a little unsettling. And then you have to change the program.
Well, and not only is that like, that's not even what they think is the best case scenario. Sometimes they actually hit the PR on the Monday or whatever. They had a good weekend. They got a lot of rest. They got a lot of calories. They came in on Monday. They feel great. And they're like, I'm going to go for the PR. And they hit a PR and they are so stoked that they hit this PR that's 25 pounds heavier than you actually programmed for them. Then guess what happens on Wednesday? Well, as a coach, you either have to take them backwards and go back to where they were, which they then often miss because the stress was heavy enough and hard enough on Monday. Or you have to go, well, I had you programmed for 300 or 305, but you went to 335 and you got it. So I guess we're going to 340 and it goes bad.
Yeah.
Right. And so even if you don't get the gut punch on the day you go for the PR, you almost always get the gut punch in the 1 or 2 workouts after you went for the PR, even if the PR goes well. I was talking to a kid. I say a kid. I don't know. The guy was in his mid-20s. Is that still a kid?
Typical Matt thinking that he's like old grandpa.
Talking to this child. So it was, anyway, I was talking to him in person. And I'd never met him before. He was talking to me about his lacked appetite. Like he was struggling a little bit. Like he was having a hard time eating and he knew he needed to train, and he had lifted a little bit before and done the typical sort of bro, like he had bench pressed and done curls and stuff, but he had literally never squatted once in his whole life. Never deadlifted a single time in his whole life. Never had a barbell on his back. I was kind of walking through what that looks like and what a basic linear progression looks like. And I said, we just want to start actually really, really conservative and just add a little bit every single time. So let's add like 5 pounds every single time. I said, what'll happen? Like, let's say on the very first workout of squats, you start and you're like at say 85 pounds or something, right? Which is a light squat for most people and probably would even be fairly light for him. And then you're going to come in the next workout and do 90 and then 95 and then 100 and 105. And I said after like 6 or 7 workouts, you're going to be like, you know what? I think I could probably just do like 150. And I said, and you probably could. Mm-hmm. But you've never done 110.
Right.
So your body will actually still adapt to 110 because it's actually heavier than anything you've ever squatted. 150 is also heavier than anything you've ever squatted. And your body will also adapt to 150. But guess how hard 155 is the next workout?
Yeah. The cost of adaptation is more significant.
That's the problem with greed. And by the way, it doesn't just happen. And I think this is important to talk about too, because we've got a lot of up and coming coaches that listen to the podcast as well. It doesn't just happen with the lifter. It sometimes happens with the coach. Sometimes the coach gets excited and they make or they get excited for their client and they end up programming a PR too early, right? That it's premature. I can't hardly use that word without my mind going the wrong. And that's what you get. You get a premature letdown. You climax early and then it all goes downhill. That's the problem, right? So I get it. It's funny, but it's just that's the thing. That's one of my telltale signs for me of a true veteran professional coach is a coach that's patient enough as well to know when to take the PRs.
And they they see what's beyond
That's right.
the main event. Like they see what it is supposed to happen, what they want to happen, what they want the lifter to feel after the PR, after the big workout, after the meet.
That's right. It's chess.
Like a lot of
You're playing
times
chess.
everything is built up to the big event.
That's
and
right.
like everything is there. But like there's a life on the other side of
That's
it
exactly
that you have
right.
to manage.
If you're not thinking 2, 3, 4, 5 moves ahead, like really, I mean, I often think of it, especially for my lifters who compete, where it's actually sport, but even for the ones that don't, I'm constantly thinking about like, I'm always thinking about, well, if I do this week with them, what is the next 3 weeks going to look like? Or if I push a little too hard now, I'm going to have to pull back at some point. Now, the other most common one that I see that will take you off script is vacation, is time off. And so as a coach, I am able to manage that for my clients when I can see. One of the things that, again, I love about our software is that our clients can now go into their calendar and I can look and see, oh, in 4 weeks, I've got a client that's going to Vegas. I got a client that's going to Mexico. Or even the type, by the way, even the type of vacation changes, right?
True. Mm-hmm.
Vegas for 7 days isn't the same thing as Riviera Maya, all-inclusive, like laying on the beach for 7 days, right?
Death.
Like
Vegas for 7 days is aging 2.5 years.
Is 5 days too long is what it is.
It
So
is.
Vegas is a 48-hour show or not. So yeah, and then that might be a time as a coach when a vacation's coming up that we go. As a matter of fact, I have a client right now who is in Hawaii and was going to go to Hawaii for an extended vacation and said, hey, I'm going to go in and do hotel workouts and like have fun and don't worry about like, this has been by the way, he'll be one of the guys that we read his name soon. Like he's somebody who's been with us for a long time. So he knows what he's doing. And he's like, you don't need to program hotel workouts for me. I'll go in and do the hotel workouts. But since I'm not going to really lift with barbells for 2 weeks, like what would you think about going kind of heavy in the last 2 weeks before I go to Hawaii? Well, that's a great time to do it. So now we get an opportunity to do that because he'll actually have the time to recover from the PR. And so a vacation is another one of those times when you can think about, well, what are you going to do on vacation? Do you have access to a gym? Do you want to go to a gym? We've talked about this before. A lot of people, if you are one of those people who your training feels like, as Hambrick used to put it, like a spoonful of medicine, and you do it because of what it helps get you, it's a means to an end, and you don't enjoy the means itself, like I do. I really enjoy training. So when I go on vacation, I train. I don't train like ridiculously hard, but because I enjoy it. But for other people, they don't. Well, so I think that's one of the things you have to take into consideration when you're going on vacation. If you're going to actually lift or not, are you going to put that pressure on yourself? By the way, if you've lifted consistently and you're going on a week-long vacation, you don't have to train. You don't need to train. It's okay to take the week off.
Yeah.
I need to train because I love it. You know this. I come back and I'm like, I feel so invigorated because I got to train every day on vacation because my life wasn't crazy running a business while I was on vacation. I was just able to go on vacation and lift. And so it was fun. So that's another time. How do you handle vacation both personally and professionally, both for yourself when you have time off and you know that you're not, you're going to travel and it's all going to be out of sync and out of whack? And also, how do you handle it as a coach for your clients?
Personally, I definitely like to keep training if there's enough time. Like if it's a weekend trip, then I'll usually try and just get my training in before I leave, maybe trickle it to the time after I leave.
Yeah.
So that I pretty much never have to miss anything. But I just kind of adjust as I need to. But I always am looking ahead as a lifter, like when.
That's right.
Because training for me, I'm not just going to let my coach program for me and then just not do it.
Right.
So I'll communicate and make sure things get done.
That's right. That's right.
And then if I want to train while I'm traveling, then there are logistical things like, do I want to pack a belt? Do I want to pack other stuff? If I don't, then the training's going to be a little bit different, but I'll modify it.
I was going to say that too. That's funny.
Yeah.
And I know because we probably both know because we're literally going through that today, right? So I don't know. People don't know this, but like we're going to see each other tomorrow. Here we are. I'm recording in Missouri. You're recording in Orange County. We're going to see each other tomorrow in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very fast turnaround for me. I was in Chicago the early part of the week. I got home from Chicago last night. This is my one day home. We're recording the podcast. Nikki, you're not going to believe this. I'm going to tell you something that how many trips have you and I, business trips, have you and I been on before? I mean, we're in the scores, right? Like
yeah, tons.
At this point, we're in 50 times. I am only doing a carry-on.
What?
Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, man.
Little Miss
No.
Prada, Louis Vuitton bags. Nope.
This
And
is
I got this
shocking.
bag out that is the size of a carry-on, and I was like, that can't be a carry-on. That's way too small. I was like, I measured it. I literally went and got the measuring tape, and I looked up on Delta. I was like, hold on, let me see what that biggest size of a carry-on is. And it is the biggest size of a, I was like, that's what I have to fit. But it's literally one of those trips where I'm flying in on Friday afternoon.
Right.
We're doing a seminar on Saturday, and I'm flying out early Sunday morning. And so
Right.
I did exactly what you said. I squatted and deadlifted today, a day early. I'm going to do my upper body session on Sunday, a day late. And now I don't have to worry about packing my squat shoes and my belt and the other stuff.
Not like we're going to have any time to lift
because we're not
anyway.
going to have any time to actually train. And so now that, typically those little like 1.5 day, 2.5 day travels are a lot easier to work around. You can think about the future. But I agree, both as a lifter and as a coach, I'm constantly thinking about, well, how long is the vacation?
Yeah.
How much work is going to get done? Can they train on it? So how do you handle it for your clients?
With my clients, they'll very often tell me ahead of time, which is fantastic. And then I'll just kind of move things around accordingly. If it's like with some of my lifters, I pack a lot into a 4-day week. And if we have to jam everything together, then things get pulled off the program.
Yep.
Because they're limited on time. There's only so much of them to go around. And when you're going to be traveling, you're losing that day of just your personal life and your work life. So
That's right.
Workouts have to be a little bit shorter, and we can make it up in the next week. So I kind of carve it down to the bare minimum. And then I know it's going to be fine when they come back.
Yep.
So the one thing that is important about going off script, no matter how it happens, is just adjusting your expectations. Like, if you choose to go off script because you want to, or if you go off script not because you chose to, your expectations of what's happening afterwards just need to be changed a little bit. So if you come back after being sick, it's okay if you're not hitting the same numbers. Your body was under serious stress. It's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like, it's, if you come back and your workouts are a little bit harder than you want them to be, don't get mad at yourself. Don't get mad at your coach. That's what happens, and it's going to be okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're playing the long game typically, right? And so it's not coming back from vacation and hitting PRs the first week back from vacation or trip or travel or whatever is like, it's just not. I remember how difficult it was for the few years I was a pro strongman, where you would have to travel and travel all over the place, and sometimes to like other countries, and then do like really heavy, really intense workouts.
Oof.
Or a lot of times, like those pro shows would be like a 3-day show, 2 events on a Friday night and 3 events on a Saturday and 3 events on a Sunday. Bro, that's hard. That's hard. Like you watch like the CrossFit games and people that do those, and they go 5 days in a row, and they're like, it's tough. And so, and you're not just, think about how hard that would be at home in your own home gym. And I never did this in like Malaysia because I was never good enough to go World's Strongest Man. But you think about these guys that do like World's Strongest Man, they go to Malaysia and then do 5 straight days of World's Strongest Man. They do. So that's also why you see these people, and the same thing for the Olympics, for people who are literally at that world level. That's why they go out there 3 weeks before the actual competition. You think about
sleep.
That's right.
Food.
That's exactly right. The food, you get traveler's diarrhea. Your stomach gets torn up. You're totally jet lagged. Your sleep is off. You wake up at 2 a.m. You're like, I'm totally awake. And then like 11:30 in the morning, you're like, I can't stay awake anymore. And so so they get adjusted. Or elevation. You talk about like going to elevation, and we've got family that are in Telluride. The cabin in Telluride is literally at 10,000 feet. Like,
oh man,
I have noticed it goes way better when we drive out there, because you drive out there and you get like Amarillo and Albuquerque and Flagstaff, and you slowly go up and you get used to the altitude, as opposed to when I just like fly into
get off the plane,
Durango and then Telluride, and I'm like, I go from Missouri, where we're at 300 feet of elevation, to 10,000 feet, and I'm like, I got a headache and I'm dehydrated and I don't know why. Well, like, so it's thinking about those things are tough. We've trained as well at Telluride. There's a nice little CrossFit gym in Telluride CrossFit. And we've lifted heavy there. You know how hard it is to lift?
Dude.
Telluride CrossFit's at 9,200 feet. Like, the gym is at 9,200. Like, forget doing anything over 3 reps.
Yep.
3 reps is the max, because you're dying. You're like hypoxic.
Loading the bar is exhausting.
Oh, it's brutal. It's brutal. So yeah, you got to think about all of those things. But I also think that there's this overarching piece that I think is a good takeaway for our clients, which is just that, like, it's not the end of the world when you go off script. You just have to understand what to expect, just like anything else. It's a budget when you go off script, because whether that's I'm going on vacation and I'm going to go drink margaritas for 10 days and lay on a beach, whether you think that's additional stress or not, it's certainly not recovery inducing. Margaritas all day. Laying on a beach might be, eating some more calories might be, but like drinking margaritas all day is not going to help with recovery. Your training is not going to get better. Going to Vegas and staying up all night long and gambling in a casino is not going to lead to better training, right? Like just even being in a different location, a different bed, a different pillow, a different, like I've got a CPAP. I've got a neck pillow that cradles my head just right. I got a 30-pound weighted blanket. Again, I'm very high maintenance, right? Yeah. And so I go to a hotel. Now, don't laugh, because the last time you were at my house, you bought the mattress and
changed my life.
the pillow and the pillow.
I didn't get the pillow yet. I didn't get the pillow yet.
Gotcha.
The mattress has changed my life.
You were like, the mattress was like waiting for you at home by the time you got back home.
Now I don't want to go anywhere else. Like I have thought about having a mattress shipped to where I'm going. Because I love it so much.
You have a traveling mattress. I'm just going to ship the mattress every single time.
Well, they're the Amazon buy in the box ones.
That's
right. Don't cost. I mean, that's definitely a financial impact, but
somebody needs to, that's a multi-billion-dollar idea if you could figure out how to get that mattress back in the box. See, that's the problem, is that you get it in the box and you're like, wait a minute, they screwed this up. They sent me a twin size. They sent me a twin size mattress. There's no way a king size fits in this. Yeah. And then you open it up and you cut that thing open and it like explodes and you're like, oh my God.
This is a funny story about the mattress. So I have a king size bed and I had this old mattress, and so I was having some back issues. So I bought a pillow topper from Tempur-Pedic. It was like $600 something. It was supposed to be great.
Oh man!
And so I got that, and then I went to Matt's house and I stayed on this Amazon mattress, and it was
that we bought from Amazon
like
China for like
best sleeps I've had in ages.
$399. Yeah.
And so like Matt said, I got home, the box was here inside, and I took it up the stairs behind me, and my back was just on the fritz for a while, so I couldn't get my mattress off of my bed or the topper because I didn't know what to do with them. So I just put the new mattress on top of it. So
a 24-inch thick mattress.
Yeah, no joke. My bed is above my belly button now, and I have to crawl into my bed.
You still,
it's still
haven't moved it. That's awesome.
I need my boyfriend to get here to help me.
You need to take a picture of it.
You
need to take a picture of that and post it and be like, look, double mattress gang.
My dog, who is very athletic, he missed it one time and fell off. Like, it's just really funny. But anyway.
So any other major off script? I mean, the other big major off script for me is when you end up with another physical hobby pursuit that strength is still important, but you've just chosen that you want to do this thing, right? So it's that I want to do the 5K, I want to do the run. And we've talked about before that idea of a budget. You just have so much stress that you can deal with. You can't continue to do the same amount of work you were going to do in the gym and also go out and run 5 miles 3 times a week. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So understanding how that's going to change the slope of the line. But again, just because you change the slope of the line of how fast you're getting stronger doesn't necessarily mean that you're reducing or changing the slope of the line for the worse of your improvement of quality of life. Because if you're doing something that you really enjoy and brings you quality of life, we have tons of people that really are into being hybrid athletes or, again, doing BJJ or doing Spartan races or whatever those things are. I'm not going to take that away from them because those things are all things that improve their quality of life. And we just have to figure out how to use strength as a budget. It's like YNAB. It's figuring out, I'm assigning the physical stress. I'm giving all of the physical stress a job. And if someone they don't go run and they don't go play in men's basketball league and they don't go to BJJ and they're not going to do those things, then I can take a lot more of that stress and assign a lot more of that stress to what's going on in the weight room. That's how we do it.
And that's fine. So just choose your path, accept it, enjoy it, and then keep your expectations in mind and plan ahead. You can really do anything if you plan ahead.
That's right. And then here's how I keep it simple. We talk about going off script when you can't really do linear progression, but I would say I still basically do linear progression. I just make the linear progression much more conservative, or I take a step back or maybe 2 steps back and then linear progress back into where I was. So, I had a client over the last couple of weeks, has a new baby at home, and was on a 4-day split linear progression. So 2 upper body days, 2 lower body days, but was just doing linear. It's still novice, right? And said, man, I just don't think, even though I'm loving that the workouts are shorter because they're just upper or lower, I'm just struggling with the baby at home to be able to get to the gym 4 days a week. Can I go back to 3 days a week? But I also can't really handle the extra time that it's going to take to do. So I said, yeah. So again, it's not perfect. So this person trains 3 days a week and just goes upper, lower, upper, lower, upper. So 1 week it's 2 lowers and an upper, and the next week it's 2 uppers and a lower. And that's not the most efficient and effective way to train, but for him, it's right. And so it's not perfectly on script.
Right. Those are his boundaries.
But those are the
That's what
boundaries.
He wants. Totally doable.
And it works just fine.
Awesome.
We
told you how to go off script.
That's how you go off script.
That's
the
what we
worst way to go off script is to stay up and drink like 12 whiskeys at night. And then like those, and those are in your control too, right? And not that we haven't done that. Not that we haven't experienced each other doing that before. So so those days happen too, right?
It's a choice.
Yep. Even those though, for me, there are also days when you get up and I'm not talking about you're hungover. So, but there's also those days where I'm not sick, ill with the flu. I'm not running fever, but I don't feel very good. I've got a cold or I've got low level, or maybe I am a little bit hungover, but I'm not destroyed, something like that. I always feel better when I go to the gym and do something, right? So that sometimes is off script too. Like I can't go in and hit the same numbers I thought I was going to hit, but I can go in with the goal of being able to walk out of the gym feeling better than I did when I walked in.
That's true. Yeah. You made some adjustments in the moment. Yeah.
And so that's how you do it for getting off script. So
awesome. That
is another episode of the Barbell Logic podcast. Now you know how to handle off script. By the way, you should be on script more than you're off script. That's the other thing. If you're off script all the time, you're not really training, right? Training means there is a script and we're generally following it. Off script means it happens every once in a while. And now we have some takeaways and some strategies that we can do when we go off script, but that shouldn't happen 3 out of 4 weeks every month. That should happen 1 week out of every quarter, something like that. Like that's the way it happens. And now you have some strategies to take with you. So again, thank you so much to those of you who have been sympathetic with me and what we've gone through with Dad. And then also, man, congrats to our BL1K, both clients and coaches. We are proud of you, and we really, really take it serious. Like we understand the gravity of what it means to be a client or a coach, both at Barbell Logic for 5, 6, 7 years and put in that sort of work. That is a tremendous amount of effort and dedication. That's not something that you can buy. Just like I love, Nikki, that you said, it's not like winning a competition. Like there are some people who are just wired to squat 600 pounds and deadlift 700 pounds, right? But that's not what this is. These people have chosen to be consistent for years and chalk up over 1,000 workouts with us. And that's really, really cool. And so we're so grateful for that. So thank you for being a part of that. So if you have received value from the podcast, we'd always love a 5-star review at Apple Podcast or on Spotify. And man, we'll catch you next week. We've got more fun stuff to talk about. And we're going to take one step deeper into programming. And we're going to try to start addressing, so up until this point from the beginning of the year, from January, we've really addressed sort of the new lifter and sort of how to experience strength when you haven't experienced strength before. And now you're going to start to see this transition of, okay, now we've experienced strength or we are experiencing strength. And we can start to talk about what does it look like when it has to become a little more complicated, both as a lifter and as a coach. So for those of you who are up and coming coaches, who are training friends, family members, or even your first paying clients, or even if you're a longtime professional coach, I think you'll get a lot of value out of this. And so I think it'll be fun. You're going to get to see us start to transition a little bit more into, okay, now what happens when it can't be the simplest of the simple? We're still going to do minimum effective dose, but the minimum effective dose is no longer like changing one tiny variable. They have to make a few more changes. And so I'm excited for where the podcast is going to go.
Same.
And so we will catch you next Tuesday. We'll see you then.
Everyone.